In this video, I'm going to help you master Photoshop layers, the foundation of every great edit, design, or composite. You'll discover how to navigate the layers panel, use essential keyboard shortcuts, and explore different layer types to unlock your full creative potential. Let's dive in and start building amazing edits together. What are layers? Layers are what makes up your image, except layers allows you to break up your image into multiple parts. So on the right of the screen is what we call the layers panel, or the layer stack. If you look from the top down on your layers, you see all the parts of the image because layers are like transparent sheets. Some of the things layers can contain are graphics, adjustments, and text. So here we have our text layer, and it's highlighted over on the right in the layers panel, a graphic here, like this bird, and an adjustment. All these are different layer types, and we'll go over them. All your layers are going to be here on the right in the layers panel. If you don't see the layers panel, go up to Windows and make sure layers is checked. The first layer in most Photoshop projects is the background layer, and it is probably the most important layer. It is the basis of your project, and it needs to be protected. The first thing you should do is make a copy of the background layer. With Command or Control J, you may need that original background layer to go back to later on when you're doing your editing. And you can use this eye right here to click on it, and it will turn it off since you can use it later. If you need to come back to it later, just turn it back on, and that makes it visible. But turn it off for now, and this is the best practice. Make a copy of your background layer. So this is the original image before any layers were added. Layers make your design so flexible that you can go back and make changes. In this original image, even if I use the move tool, I can't move any of these objects. I'm moving the whole layer. And if this is the background layer, before I made a copy of it, I can't move it at all. So that's another reason to protect your background layer, make a copy of it. So now if I want to add a text layer, I can move it around, resize my text. If I wanted to add another bird, I can move the bird around, resize him, and I can add an adjustment, something like this, and make him a little darker, a little bit more contrast. And so this is called a composite, made up of individual layers that make up your image, and you have full control of those individual layers. Now we're going to talk about layer visibility. Sometimes you need to turn these layers off to see what the effect is of your layer on the layer below. So I've renamed all of my layers. If you come down here of the layers panel, there's an icon that says create new layer. You click on that, it'll create a new layer. It's a transparent layer, and we're going to talk about that also right now, but it names it layer 1, layer 2, depending on how many you have. So if you just double click inside the layer name and change it to something and give it a meaningful name. So I've named all of my layers here. For instance, this one here says bird 3, and this eye right here, if you click on it, it toggles visibility. So if I click on it, bird 3, you can see is this owl right above the tree. Click to turn off the visibility. You don't see the eye anymore. Click it, and the visibility is back on. And if I want to turn off visibility on all these layers here on the layers panel, except for the background layer, click on the top one, shift click on the bottom one that I want to shift click on the layer that is the last layer of visibility. They're all selected. And then depending on if you're on Windows or Mac, it's Command or Control and the comma key. And see, it turned all those layers off at once, and it's showing just the background copy or the background layer. And I'll hit that again, the shift comma with all those layers selected, and they're back on. That's helpful if you want to see your original layer or your background layer. So that is turning off a group of layers. I just chose all of them just to give you an idea, but you can do a smaller group. Now I can accomplish something similar if I want to turn off all the layers above the background layer and not just a small group. Alt or Option and click on the eye. And now I'm going to go through and explain transparency as well as what all these layers are to build this composite. So clicking on where my eye is right here, that gives me visibility of this layer, the first layer, which I've named palm tree. In Photoshop, transparency refers to how much a layer is visible and how much of the layer beneath it can be seen through it. So if we didn't have any other layers but this palm tree and the background layer, the way you get that transparency is here in Photoshop is the original image of the palm tree. And we're going to go over this more in depth. First of all, you have a layer thumbnail on the left. And in this case, you have a layer mask. And we're going to talk about that later in another video. That's a whole nother subject, layer mask. If I want to turn off that layer mask and see what the image looked like before I remove the background, I could say shift and click on that layer mask. In fact, I'm going to delete that layer mask for right now because I want to show you. If I say remove background does this by default. It creates a layer mask. But what is important is now behind the palm tree, you see the checkerboard pattern back here. Creating this transparency is used when creating images that need to blend seamlessly with other designs. So imagine this palm tree, but all around it, it is clear plastic. And here's where the magic happens. When you put that over your background image, everything on the palm tree layer is transparent except for where the palm tree and its leaves are. So if I turn off my layer mask here, that's because I had to resize this palm tree to fit here, but you can see that because of the transparency of that layer, the palm tree layer, you see only the palm tree. You don't see the white background because the whole white background is now transparent except for the palm tree. That is the basis of layers. It's the transparency of the layer above. Again, think of it as looking down on top of your layer stack. Right now, all I see is the palm tree if I look down, and then the background copy. The next layer up is a type of layer. It is called an adjustment layer. And an adjustment layer is a way to apply an edit to a layer below it. Or it could apply it to all the layers below it. I'll show you what I mean. And again, when we do the video on layer mask, this is going to get explained a lot more. This arrow means that this is a clipping mask that has been applied. And what that means is this adjustment layer is only going to affect or change attributes of the palm tree below. So I need to turn on the visibility. And if I change any of these sliders, you can see that it is affecting the palm tree only. If I did not have this arrow here, meaning the clipping mask is turned off. In other words, if I hit Alt or Option and you see the arrow is changing with it's kind of crossed out. If I click on that, now that adjustment is affecting everything below. So that's what using a clipping mask on an adjustment does. You can choose to affect everything below or just one layer below. So I'll turn that back on again, and my clipping mask and my adjustment layer is just affecting the palm tree. So next layer up is the camel layer. Turn on visibility, and it's the same deal. When I cut out this camel here, or I remove the background, it made the pattern back here, which is the pattern for transparency. And again, we're going to talk about the black mask right here. So now my thumbnail, each layer has a couple of thumbnails. So I have my thumbnail, which has the camel on it. I have the mask, the layer mask. I can turn off my layer mask, shift and click in the layer mask. And that is how much I had to resize that original image that I put in here. I had to size it down. And above that, I have another adjustment layer. I turn on the visibility, and right here on the adjustment layer, you click, here's the properties. This is a curves adjustment layer, and you can see all the properties here used to make this darker, so you fit in a little bit better. So we've seen background layers, adjustment layers, graphic layers. It's another graphic layer. I named it Bird 1. Same thing. Remove the background. Here's the transparency. Same thing with Bird 2 and Bird 3. So at any point, what's kind of neat about if you use the Move tool, and up at the top in the toolbar, if you select Auto Select, check that box. And for instance, say I don't know where the layer is for any of these objects on this image. So for this owl right here, if I click on him, you see over in the layers panel, the layer that corresponds to him, Bird 1, is highlighted. Same thing if I don't know where the camel is on the layers panel. If I didn't rename it, I can click on it, and over in the layers panel, the highlight is on the camel layer. So this is the magic of layers. I now have full control over any of these objects. I can move them. I can click on one. I have my layer highlighted, say Command T, I can make it bigger, which you cannot do if you put everything on a background layer, which there is a way to do that, but it just limits your ability to refine your composite. Let's talk about useful shortcuts to help you navigate the layers panel. If I want to move a layer, say bird 3, and I want to move it down in the stack, it's Command or Control, and then you have the left and right bracket on the keyboard. Left bracket for down, so there's bird 3 under bird 2, and bird 3 is now under bird 1 and bird 2. And you can move it back the other way with the right bracket. You may need to move your layers around for them to make better sense in your design. Right now, the top layer, or bird 3, is selected. If you wanted to move your selection all the way down to the first layer in the layers panel, it's Alter Option period. So it's all the way down on the background copy now. Alter Option period, Alter Option comma. So alternating between Alter Option period and comma activates either the bottom or the top layer in the stack. If you just want to select the next layer up or down, Alter Option, your left bracket takes you down to the next layer below it, and you can keep on going all the way to the top. If you want to go layer by layer, Alter Option, right bracket key, and that is taking me to the next layer up every time. Now, we talked a little bit about this before, but the clipping mask for the adjustment so that your edit affects only the layer below, Alter Option, click on that line right there, right at the bottom of the layer. I took the clipping mask off, and you can see that that arrow is down, and now you can see how the image changed because that adjustment was applied to every layer below. Now, if I want to make it apply just to the camel in this case, Alter Option, and then click, and it's just affecting the layer below, in this case the camel. And there may be times where you want to zoom in on any of these layers individually. If I want to zoom in on bird 2, just hold Alt or Option and click on the layer. Do that again, Alt or Option, and a click on the camel layer, so it zooms in for you. And another feature in the layers panel is right here where it says blend modes. Right now I have the camel layer selected, and I'm going to drop this down, and you can choose whatever blend mode you want. As you hover through it, it's going to give you a preview of how each blend mode is going to look. So you can see the camel is changing. So this is how the camel is blending with the lower parts of the image. Even though these don't look exactly right, some may be close. The concept is that you can actually use this to blend in any of these layers to your overall composite. Just by trying them out, you may get an effect that you like. There's no harm in going through all of them and seeing what might work for you. You never know. So that's the blend modes right there. Kind up here is a filter for all these layers right here. You may have a layer panel with, 50 layers, and you only want to see certain ones. So there's no effects, mode, normal, attribute. So adjustments would be under attribute. It filters them out. So in case you were wondering where they were at, this would be a way to kind of search. And another attribute here that is worthy of mentioning right now in layers is this opacity. So pick on bird 3 again, and you see the opacity here changing. Bird 3 is right above the tree. There's opacity at 0%, and around 50%, you see only so much of the bird. 100%, you see all the bird. But you can easily control that by hitting the key. So if I hit 1, that's 10%, and keep on hitting the keys, 30, 40, hitting a 5 for 50%, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Say if I want 45%, I'll hit a 4 and a 5 real fast. That's 45%. Or 77%, let's say 78%, 7, 8. And you see the opacity change there. So those are some tips on layers to help you get started if you've never used them before or need to brush up on a couple of things. The next video is layer mask, so it will build on the use of layers. You've just learned the building blocks of Photoshop, layers. Practice creating different types of layers. If this tutorial was helpful, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more Photoshop tips every week. Drop your questions in the comments. Remember, it's never too late to learn. Thanks for watching.